Hello and welcome to The Swing. As always, it's your boy HK, and I am joined by my co-host, slowly gathering himself, getting himself up there, that guy Owais, wearing the Kyle Lowry jersey. Got my own on today. And today on The Swing, as always, we go through what's going on with the basketball world, but sometimes it's all about taking that step back. That moment, that time to reflect, that time that we probably will not see again in any semblance of the way that we have seen over the last 9 years of a certain man, of a certain bulldog, of a certain captain who has led the ship through all of its ups, through all of its downs, and eventually to the absolute apex, the top of the mountain. And that man is That Guy Owais, Kyle Lowry.
I thought you said my name for a second. I got concerned. I'm like, I don't remember doing that, but I'll take it. Any praise coming my way, I will take it. But no, today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, is about the GROAT himself, the greatest Raptor of all time, Kyle Lowry. Now, with that being said, this episode's not necessarily us talking about just his greatness. This is almost like a hangout session between us, the fans, and you guys, right? We're all fans here, and basically Kyle Lowry highlights. So, we're going to break down almost a timeline of what Kyle Lowry has accomplished, what he didn't accomplish. But like many superheroes, we know there's always those situations where the people turn on him, much like in WWE. You have the baby faces and the highs, and then you have the heels. And when it gets really bad. And we're here to go on that journey together in what we title as the Memoirs of the GROAT, Kyle Lowry. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into the video. And let's talk about Kyle freaking Lowry.
Obviously made it clear that they want you as the point guard of the future. How comfortable are you with, taking the keys to a team that you haven't played with before? Because as a point guard, you're going to have to be the leader, too, also on this new team.
Very comfortable with it. For the most part of the last 2 seasons, I've been the leader for the teams I've been playing for. I'm very comfortable with it. I'm excited. I think it's another opportunity for me to prove myself. 26
so
years
scripted.
Old, I'm still young,
so scripted.
26
I mean, you have to remember that bow tie is killing, but you remember he's got to be in that way because he's coming in with a bit of an attitude, with a bit of a reputation behind him, right? Of being a bit of a coach killer, a bit of a problem child, but immensely talented, and that was never in question.
Absolutely, and he absolutely from the get-go let everybody know he was that guy. You know what I mean? The high energy, playing hard at every single possession. That's something we got accustomed to and almost spoiled with having a guy like Kyle Lowry. And that attitude, let's be honest, this guy has an attitude. And so, you always see him complaining or he'll be talking his trash to the other team, but also having a laugh. But he had something to improve. And as we kind of go through these highlights, we can kind of see some of the amazing bits of Kyle Lowry, and
always had that.
Let's be honest, that tray, that 3-point shot from pretty much anywhere, he pulls up, it's money, it. And it's funny, he actually started off with number 3. I remember you had a jersey when you originally came. You were really excited to talk about that.
Yeah, no man. Well, first and foremost, I was already a big fan of Kyle Lowry for his time in Houston, where he had already displaced Aaron Brooks to become that starting point guard, and he had already started to show that little bulldog mentality about him. The fact that he was absolutely fearless, and the way he pulled up like that, just in so quickly, so smooth emotion, and also just incredibly underrated as a point guard with regards to his rebounding ability as well. So it was just a lot of things that he had going for him that made me very excited to get him on the Toronto Raptors. And yeah, the moment we had that trade announced, which you have to remember, Gary Forbes, a second-round pick. Like, this was 100% Houston just kind of cutting bait because they had decided to stick with Dragic instead.
Yeah.
After the Kyle Lowry. So I wouldn't even necessarily call it an injury as much as he literally had a cut in his intestine that kept him out for like 3.5 to 4 months the previous season, and it left him like unable to practice in that time. He put on a lot of weight in that time as well, and he just pretty much was starting from scratch from what he had already achieved over the last couple of years for Houston. So he had a huge chip on his shoulder coming in onto Toronto. And look, we're seeing his starting highlights here when he came in on the Toronto Raptors, and obviously, it's a lot more, I guess you can say, aggressive of a game. It's not really the floor general that he would become as time went on, but he spoke about the fact that he had come in here with this being like a proving point for him. Like, this was just a job that he was going to come in, prove that he still was a top guard in the league, and start moving on to his next destination. But obviously,
Absolutely.
As we saw, as he grew in stature, as he grew in his own confidence, and has the Toronto fans and everyone endeared themselves to him, that story just started to change.
Yeah, it's crazy how the narratives always change depending on situation. Sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time, and Kyle Lowry kind of found himself right there in the right place at the right time. Still being a young guy, established, still trying to find a way to establish himself. But when you get those minutes, you get those opportunities, you got to make the most of them, and that's exactly what he did. And one of the things that I love about this particular season is that they were talking about how Kyle and DeMar didn't really have a relationship in this season at all. And earlier you saw that alley-oop pass that he had made to DeMar, and you would think, these guys have crazy chemistry right off the bat. No, sir. That's something that, just came out of the blue. They read it good, and boom. That shows you the vision. But is it just me, or is it Kyle Lowry, like, just from the left side of the court, anywhere, whether it be the mid-range or like the 3-point shot, it's just cash every time, and especially in like the most clutch moments. But anyway, this in particular was an interesting time because, this is just before the We the North era, right? This is when he comes in and he's with this really, I guess, bootleg big three situation with, Rudy Gay and, this is before Rudy Gay.
Yeah, well, you have to remember the Rudy Gay acquisition
Kyle
happened,
and Rudy Gay.
Yeah, that second half of the season over there, right? But this is really where, remember, we were still in a situation where Jose Calderon was still on the Toronto Raptors, so we were kind of in this, like, in-between of, Bargnani still
Big
being
move.
there, Jose Calderon being there. So Kyle, even though, yes, he was coming out as a starting point guard, it was still one of those things where you were trying to split minutes in between them. It was like a situation where you were 100% beating them by committee. And that's where, Kyle's talked about this in interviews in that first season where, he was in many ways out for himself. He was there to kind of put his stamp on any game that he went out to play, make sure that he got his, as far as his entire side was concerned, because like you said, he was looking to just get himself back in the NBA landscape, get himself proven to be the player of the caliber he knew he was.
Yeah.
But the rest of the NBA needed to see that too. And it wasn't really until, the next season where we've seen now interviews with Masai talking about how he had that sit down with Kyle and challenged him, right? Like, do you want to be a great player? Do you want to be that guy who could be, the leader of a team, the highest paid guy, the one who has all-star capabilities? All of that was a challenge that was posed to Kyle Lowry. I mean, he could do this anytime. That was just disgusting. And the sad thing was, we were still losing these games early in the season, but you could start to see just the kind of talent that was there now in our backcourt. So the rest of it just had to go about and kind of fit itself into the rest of it. So he was good. Could he make the rest of his team better? And it was really in that 2013-14 season where we truly started to see that side of Kyle Lowry.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is that playoff series, the one that, first of all, a season that no one ever thought the Raptors would make the playoffs in the first place, right? But spearheaded by this absolute dominance of a season for Kyle Lowry. I'm surprised he didn't even get most improved during that time. But Kyle and DeMar, Valanciunas, these guys literally carried Amir Johnson. Guys carried this team into the playoffs, and they were facing a veteraned up Brooklyn Nets, and they took them to Game 7. No one ever thought that series is going that far. You get what I'm saying? So
I'll be honest, I totally expected them to be able to win that series, but obviously this is very early on in our journey as far as the playoffs are concerned, and really it was the
look at Drake. Look how early that is. Drake doesn't have a beard, nor is he buff. Let's be honest.
A little stubble going at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, that entire series was pretty much a coming of age as far as the Toronto Raptors are concerned, right? The fans, that first year, that Jurassic Park really came to life, and I mean, no other team in the NBA had seen what we were putting out in that kind of fervor that was created for that entire playoff run, and it was just absolutely wild. It was an experience, and I think everyone who was in any way part of that could see that this is the start of what's going to be something special for this team.
Take a look at this big shot right here. The left side, Kyle Lowry in late moments, you best believe that's clutch. That's where he lives from, honestly. And then again, look at these are difficult moves. And imagine, it's almost similar to the, I guess, floater that he tried in the final moments of Game 7, which I think we're getting to right now. He makes those. I think he made that 3-4 times in the series, but this one was just a little bit tough. Really tragic moment. Really tragic moment. It was definitely a foul. I mean, we can speculate, but look at the way that he really has to go through 3 guys and then the 4th in order to try to get that bucket.
And if you recall in this game, so this was the starts of where I was like, look, man, Dwayne Casey is in trouble here. If you remember, before that play happened and they had the inbound, he was inbounding from the other side of the court. And that's where they thought that they were going, and the play that was set up was for that side. And then all of a sudden the refs were like, no, actually, what are you doing? The inbound is from the bottom side over here. And that is exactly what ended up being just a microcosm of the kind of stuff that we started to see as far as the downsides of the way we were playing, our ISO heavy kind of play, our almost
ISO heavy
hero ball, whatever. And it started to come to a head because the next season, I mean, we came out like an absolute team on fire, right? 24-7 to start the season. It looked like we were there to, do something out of this world. But, it caught up to us once that new year hit and people started to figure out that, hey, look.
It's an ISO heavy team.
Yeah, incredibly ISO heavy, very little ball movement when things aren't going. And if Lowry's 3 was not going, the rest of his game wasn't able to get itself started either, and that really put us in a lot of trouble. Because as much as you're seeing these defensive highlights here, this was our worst year defensively. It was just such a offensively minded team. Remember, we had Lou Williams, Gravis Vasquez, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. Those were our backcourt guys. And I mean, 2 out of 4 of those guys are absolute defensive liabilities, and DeMar was also just on and off depending on how things went. So it was just a recipe of disaster waiting to happen. And unfortunately, it did once the playoffs hit.
Yeah, but screw that. Screw all that for a second. Let's talk about how Kyle Lowry, for the first time in his career, ended up being an all-star. And what a moment. Take a look at the family and just the reaction of the players. This is a beautiful moment. I just remember watching this on the open gym. Absolutely emotional. There it is.
Yeah, and it was crazy because the year prior to that, he didn't get in the All-Star team, while DeMar DeRozan did. And many people, including myself, felt that, look, if there was one Raptor that deserved it, it should have been Kyle Lowry. But he finally did get his due in the next one. And not only did he get on, but he got on as a starter. So it was just an awesome turnaround to be able to get to that.
100%.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Awesome, ladies and gentlemen. But that awesomeness turned into a sweep, and I think Kyle had struggled all series long. The entire Raptor squad struggled all series long against the Washington Wizards. Couldn't defend a pick and roll for their life. And that was the beginning of the sweep situation. This real, almost stigma against the Toronto Raptors that they are the baby Raptors, if you will, right? That they, and then, okay, pause really quickly. Just pause. Go back a little bit. I wanna be able to show you really quickly this photo. All of us are used to like Michelangelo, puffy Ninja Turtle, Kyle Lowry, okay? Loves his pizza, if you will. But Kyle Lowry here, we couldn't recognize him. JJ Redick couldn't recognize him. He tweeted out this photo and he's like, is that Kyle Lowry? It was. After that conversation that, you and I just kind of talked about with Masai Ujiri of, like, what kind of guy do you want to be, right? What kind of player do you want to be? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Kyle took that to heart. And as a professional, as you can see, part of being a professional was to take care of his body because he knew how much that the Raptors pretty much relied on him throughout the course of the season to kind of like carry everything, play extended minutes. You know how Dwayne Casey is. So that takes a toll on the body. And in order to be at the highest level, he felt like he had to change his diet. He had to work out different. And he was also given that opportunity to be more of a scorer than anything. And I think this was one of his more prolific scoring years. But what a year. This was the year that we made the conference finals, ladies and gentlemen. And take a look. Look at that difference. That's massive. Look, you got big GROAT. We're used to this kind of tough, but egg-shaped Kyle Lowry. And then you got this lean. And honestly, he picked up big in terms of his first step. His first step that year was insane, man. It was tough for any guard to really catch to him. Like, Kyle Lowry's not a guy who has like the nicest handles. He's not the flashiest type of player, but he not only has a great frame, but with that season, and then of course the addition of Corey Joseph, DeMarre Carroll, Louis Scola, and those guys, it ended up being a really good solid team. And Biombo, let's not forget. Now this game, I picked this game for this season. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah,
but
I remember it.
This was the game against the Golden State Warriors, fresh off a championship, and literally nobody was able to beat them. And Kyle Lowry literally took over this game and willed them to keep relevant during this game. And imagine, the crowd was crazy this game. I think we ended up losing by a few points, but right down to by 3
I remember
points.
this game very, very vividly. One, because I was there anyways, but
nice.
Just in general, the reason I remember this game was because it was just such a straight up duel between Steph Curry and Kyle Lowry in this game. Because if you look, DeMar didn't have a great game. I guess that was a good play there. He did not have a good game. In fact, JV was out for this game, and if you guys recall, it was actually Lucas Nogueira who came in off the bench and had a crazy game, his career best game off this one, where he just came in and was just running crazy pick and rolls with Kyle Lowry to be able to go ahead and get them into that scenario. But
boom,
as you said, this was probably the signature Kyle Lowry game of that season, outside of the fact that he also had one against the Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. But this was his career high at that point. Dropped 41, was 14 of 26 from the field, 6 of 10 from 3. And he straight up kept up with Steph Curry all the way through. Who at this point, you have to remember, this was Steph Curry's, unanimous MVP year, right? This is the 73-9 Golden State Warriors year, and this is just them at their absolute apex. And for a team, there you go. That Lucas Nogueira play was very, very fruitful in this game. But just in general, look at that. He just took out Draymond Green. He just took out Draymond Green right there.
And he's one of the best defenders. Look at this. The first step is so quick. And that's the difference between the season before and this season. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so look, what it all just pretty much showed is that, look, the Toronto Raptors were here to play, not only to kind of shake off the, that nasty taste that was left at the end of that 2014-15 season, but for us to kind of take that in stride. Obviously, Kyle Lowry came back physically different, but we also came back mentally different.
Mentally different, absolutely.
To actually deal with this. So this entire season, like, remember, this was our best season up until then. We went 56-26 in this season, and it was just absolutely awesome that we had to go ahead and deal with this. So, yeah.
Look at that first step. And then what a pass. Dude, I remember when Nogueira like hit that dunk, I was going mental. Literally mental. But just unfortunate that they came on the short end of it. I remember I was texting my friend Bilal, and Bilal was a huge Golden State fan, but he's like, yo, for the first, because he came from I think New Jersey to Toronto, so he still has like those American roots, so he's gonna cheer for an American team for the first time, or not for the first time, but just like, you know, as a thing. And I'm texting him, I'm like, bro, I think we got it this game. Might have jinxed it, but what an entertaining game. Like, you know, you look for some games during the season where you're like, holy, I can look back to that and remember it, and it'll be like nostalgia, just a beautiful, beautiful time. And this was kind of sour in the sense that we ended up losing, but hey, set precedent for an incredible season, made him an all-star. And take a look at that. You want to go replay that? I want to see this guy somehow. Dude, it's physically impossible for that junk in the trunk to jump that high. But ladies and gentlemen, during the, you know, they talk about Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, slam dunk contest here and there. But look at this. Kyle Lowry. Oh, my God. Is that on Melo's head as well? Like, come on.
His own teammate, yeah.
This is crazy. But, yeah, now we go into the playoffs. And, you know, in our first round, we beat Indiana in a really close series. But then this iconic moment, because I don't think Kyle had a great first round. No. But then this happened. He had a horrible game, and then this happened. I remember. You need to pause this for a second, okay? That half-court shot. So I remember I was at my friend Hamad's house, okay? And a bunch of us came through to watch the game. We had a barbecue and this and that. And, bro, like, this game went on late because, of course, with Miami, the games, I think, ended up starting around, like, 8 o'clock, 8:15, and they would end around, like, 11/midnight, whatever the case might be. So this is game one, and we know we have game one woes. So we're like, we don't know what might happen, but chances are the Raptors lose. And to be honest, they were down for a significant part of the game. Now, we somehow make this miraculous fourth quarter within the last 5 minutes comeback. I remember Terrence Ross hit this crazy three as well to kind of get it close, and then maybe he had a steal. I just can't remember what the play sequence was, but eventually it led to that. And I remember there were a lot of people in the crowd in the ACC that had left the building. And so that is kind of sad in its own right. But Kyle was shooting horribly all game. And all of us were just watching. And we're like all disappointed. We're like, we don't know what might happen here, but there's a chance. So we're all brothers like huddled up. And then that happens in a split of a second. That happens. And all of us like go crazy in this house. And imagine this is the middle of the week. There's work the next day. And we're all jumping, going crazy like we won the championship. And dude, we woke up his parents. His parents came up. Is everything okay? Like, what happened? Do you need to call the police? What happened? Like, they were scared, genuinely scared. They thought something had happened. But no, it was just us being that excited. But just disappointing that, you know, we ended up still losing that game.
That OT was terrible, man.
Yeah, just really, really bad. But, I mean, I don't know what you were doing that game. You might have been at the game, I think.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
And
talk about it.
Look, first and foremost, it was almost as if after this game is where Kyle Lowry decided, all right, cool, it's time to wake up. Because there was a very, very, like, straight up – Lowry got absolutely destroyed at the end of this game. Just so you know, that three that he hit, that was just 3 of the 7 points in total that Kyle Lowry had in this game. Playing 43 minutes, he shot 3 of 13. And it was just, like, every little thing that had been about Kyle Lowry, you know, choking or not living up to
they
what
started
he
coming
doing.
True.
It started coming out hard. And I've always backed Kyle Lowry all the way through, but this was 100% a bad game for him. Even though his plus minus was still quite good in the game because he was just, as always, a defensive dog and keeping things going.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, his offense had to come around. And really, it was only like after this bitter pill of disappointment where we then turned around and came back in that game too, where Kyle Lowry truly started to kind of turn around, I would say, his entire playoff
trajectory. Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember that night he stayed back a little bit later after the game finished to just put up some shots. Like, he kept shooting threes. He was in his hoodie. He was all pissed off at himself. But that's a mark of a professional, someone who really, really wants to be the the master of his own craft. And if it takes extra shots, I don't care how much my body's hurting. I don't care how disappointed I am. I can't go out like that. And it literally changed the entire narrative for the rest of the playoffs. And this, in my opinion, was one, like, in many cases, like, the championship run was iconic in its own way.
D Wade watching the ball
on his knee.
He's like, he knows.
Yeah. Like, that was epic. Screw that guy. That reaction was too epic. But yeah, like, then come the real dog games. And when I mean dog, I mean, like, in every aspect of the game that you can make a change. Kyle Lowry was the center of that, that change. And that's what we became used to in the rest of the playoffs. So check this out. First of all, Terrence Ross, that's a tough layup.
Yeah.
But this is game 3, I believe. And game 3 is when he really started turning on from an offensive standpoint. And boy, oh boy, he was cooking guys like D Wade. Look, Dwayne Wade, who is he? Well, he's one of the premier defenders at the time, especially as a wing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, for Kyle Lowry to do that to a lot of these guys, that was insane. And so that shows a mark of a true professional. And bro, that guy was shooting threes for his, like, look at this. Watch this right here. Pull up in your face. Thank you. And what's his name? What's our commentator's name? It's slipping my mind.
Which one? Matt Devlin?
Matty D. I think this is like my favorite thing, because he always goes, Lowry for 3. Got it for Brampton. Or he shout out some shitty. And that's something we absolutely love.
Yeah.
But this is probably the American commentator, so we don't care about it too much.
But to be honest, like, until later on, as far as, the Raptors continue to go further and further on and have bigger moments as far as the playoffs are concerned, this game, and especially the shot that sealed this game, was my favorite Kyle Lowry moment for so many years. He has that perfect move to the left of the paint and just has that little pull up on D Wade to finish the game. And then you see it cut to Pat Riley in the crowd, and he's just like,
yeah, he's mad.
He's like, yep.
Yeah, he's like, in 6 years, I'm gonna go get this guy on our team. That's what he said.
That's what he knew he will one day be on the Miami team.
Look at this, just like pull-ups from, and that was a big thing, right? Like, his impact on the game, especially with this shooting, when it's on, it literally changes the course of every single game. And I remember this season, he also, I think, was in the 3-point contest, didn't do so well. That was always a disappointment with low side of Kyle Lowry. It was like him screwing up the classic 3-point contest. I think he's been there twice or 3 times, and all times it's just not been that great. Look, that's not Harris, guys. That's not him, but it sure as hell looks like him. And look at him talking his trash. I think this is when he puts it up on. No, it's not
this one. It's not. It's a little bit later. But
this could borderline be a charge. Oh no, these are just like kind of little highlights here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Those pull-ups were so beautiful, man. And I think that one of the things about this series in general was that I felt like it was so evenly matched, so evenly matched. And he's against Dragic, a guy that he had to compete for a job, so he had to prove something. This is it.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Beautiful. Talk about it.
It was just, look, first and foremost, I am always, any moment I can get on D Wade is just a moment to me. All right. This entire series, everything in the media was all like, oh, we want to see D Wade versus LeBron. Oh, guys, we want to see the friends come back and face each other. No one wants to see that. All right.
No, the Raptors had different plans.
Yeah, there you go. We had no interest in seeing that. And that was part of my problem with the coverage throughout this series. It was pretty much a given that Miami would somehow pull through, where it's like, look, clearly the Toronto Raptors are the better team over here. How can you honestly be doubting that? And then for it to, us be shooting ourselves in the foot, because frankly, we should have gone up 3-1 up in this series. But we just found ways to just lose games. And it was so annoying. That game 4 where we pretty much blew the fourth quarter to be able to go ahead and get them back into it, and they beat us in overtime. It was so sad. Mm-hmm. Again, second game that went to OT. So it was just one of those where every time you felt like the Toronto Raptors were finally putting ahead, when Kyle Lowry was finally putting it all together, then he would kind of come back and have like an iffy game. His game 4 was not good. Let's go back.
Yeah, be honest, it's horrendous. It was. Don't say iffy. It was horrendous.
The game 4 was another one of those shot 2 of 11, 10 points, 6 turnovers. Not a game that he will remember. But it was really like game 5 onwards for the rest of that playoffs, where Kyle Lowry from then on did not have what one would be like considering a bad game per se, and it was just like that. That's just the kind of stuff that you needed to be able to really start to see the confidence really growing in a man who is now embracing the spotlight that was coming there. Right? This is these are the playoffs. These are scenarios where Toronto historically has not done especially well.
Ooh, on D Wade's head top.
There you go. And that game 7 in general was one of the few times in Toronto Raptor history where we had a fourth quarter where we could actually breathe
we played
easy.
Well. Yes.
We just put them away, and that's where the whole "We Want Cleveland" chant started, and that's what was going.
Oh my God, the "We Want Cleveland." That was incredible. Big shot also. But yeah, dude, one of the things about the fourth quarter, and I always say this, there's two. Oh my God, Biyombo was huge those playoffs too. Let's be honest. But one of the things about the Raptors that I still have some trauma with is that we're always facing two teams, right? We're facing, of course, the opponent, but we're also facing the referees half the time. If we can talk about the amount of ghost calls that, they put on Valanciunas for this entire 3 series of this year, and even before that, they just don't want Toronto to win. Let's be honest. But this season, in itself, against all odds, right? No one saw the Raptors, even if they had a successful season. The stigma was already there, and these guys really grinded out and played to their I guess strengths. You could say strengths in the sense of the grittiness, the willingness of I'd rather die on this court than lose another game. But this was huge. That Biyombo dunk, I remember that whole sequence was insane.
Where he blocks the waiting.
Yeah, he blocks.
That was
exactly one of the greatest Raptor moments of all time. But comfortable lead, and we met LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals, and quite frankly, we were definitely not matched to win that series at all. No. LeBron being in his prime, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, you know what was about to happen.
Look, it was always, first and foremost, we also didn't get JV back until later on in the series.
Yeah,
he was already dealing with his injuries as well, right?
Ankle or something.
The hand. But anyways, regardless, it was just one of those where the reality was that was probably our ceiling, right? To be winning this series, to come into a conference finals, and to then eventually take 2 games away from Cleveland. That was about as good as it could get for that season, right? And this, apart from the fact that the championship year is 100%, the season that the Raptors are going to remember for the rest of time for obvious reasons, I would say this is the season where Toronto truly showed itself out and really established itself as a legitimate, respectable franchise, not only within the NBA, but really within its fan base as well. That belief
without
is
a doubt
truly created in my mind with this year. Obviously,
Biyombo is my daddy. Yeah, the All-Star game. Yeah.
And the All-Star game in the one weekend where it was freezing cold while it'd been hot.
Exactly.
The entire other thing. So it was just crazy.
But with the freezing cold came some incredible entertainment. Best dunk contest ever, right? In my opinion, ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like people won't understand this. People that are outside of Toronto will not understand what the city was on that year. Drake released, if you're reading this, it's too late. You get what I'm saying? The Raptors are literally in the playoffs, going crazy, underdog team, making it that far. I think that what the city, and I think the Blue Jays also started making some big moves. So the city in itself just became this incredible experience. It's it's a feeling, in the We the North era, especially this was, I feel the highlight of it was this. the championship is the later end of the We the North era, but I think like from a culture perspective, this was the pinnacle. And then, you know, we go ahead and we face LeBron, and LeBron doing LeBron things, especially considering like that was that season for LeBron, you know, the one that he considers that solidified him as the GOAT. But, you know, Kyle literally willed game 3 and 4 for Toronto and to win those. You know, the funny thing is, this is actually a little sad. I did not watch any of these games. Why? Because I had baseball playoffs and I couldn't miss them. So I had to actually watch them after, and I didn't want anyone to ruin the results for me. So for me to go home and watch these not live, you know, after, sometimes it got ruined because, you know, you go on WhatsApp by accident and boom, you're bombarded with, you know, we have our little WhatsApp group, which is pretty crazy. And we were all on something that year, dude, especially when we won 2 against like Cleveland. That was enough for us. Even if we lost the series, that was totally enough for us because we showed that we could fight. We didn't want to go down swept. And the way that we fought, like take a look at some of these highlights by Kyle. Floor general, look at this. Great pass to the cutting Patterson. Gets the fake. Ooh.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing game for Kyle Lowry himself, and he obviously had the final play in the end where he gets past JR as well. But more than that, just even in this game, if you remember, in the third quarter, like middle of third quarter going into the fourth, there was a stretch where Cleveland hit like 12 or 13 shots in a row. As in LeBron, he would go to that post area and just hold it there and just keep like finding crazy passes all because LeBron himself didn't need to be all that aggressive from a pure shot making perspective because we actually were doing a pretty decent job to him. But he was able to find Channing Frye.
Oh my God, Channing Frye. Imagine.
Guys who could just go ahead and just keep hitting shot after shot. But for us to kind of be in this position where we were up like 20, 25, but then Cleveland came back and took the lead in that early fourth quarter. But for us to still be in that scenario and not, you know, as other teams may have from Toronto in the past kind of disintegrated under that pressure. Kyle, and to DeMar's credit, DeMar did not in this game. Both of them came up huge in that fourth quarter to be able to go ahead and make sure that this game did lead to a tied series, even though obviously eventually it was just kind of delaying the inevitable. But for that 2-game stretch where everyone was like, maybe Toronto will win one of these and then it'll be a gentleman's sweep, that was where, if you remember, Stephen A officially apologized to Canada at the end of Game 4, where it's like,
they're going to be swept. Right. Yeah, right. Come on. But the analysts usually get it wrong for the Toronto Raptors. But yeah, to be fair, Kyle, in my opinion, was the best player in that year's run, right? Yeah. After the Indiana series, he was the best player. I think second by maybe Bismack Biyombo. Let's be honest. DeMar comes in third for me, man. DeMar was like too shaky every single playoffs. Something wrong with him in terms of his. Ooh, that was scary. I remember that too. That was really scary. The little fall because
fall down. It's like, oh crap! No, can't be caught.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, but hey, to pull off a few wins.
Yeah, and look, this is the scenario. So look, at this point, Cleveland got it up to 92-89, right? And it was in that time where everyone's like, oh, crap, here we go again. Here's that scenario in which historically we found ourselves in struggling scenarios, trouble, and not able to go ahead and pull it through. But we did, and that steal was likely what kind of initially found it. Yeah, because you got the foul on LeBron, we got ahead, and that's really where it just – this was like the play that got me like really hype. I remember like we're watching the highlights on YouTube and I see this. I'm like, oh baby, that's the Kyle I know. And then that little arm over little celebration with Biyombo. That's just iconic for me, man. Iconic. I love Biyombo, man. That I feel like every year that we have like a big with some sort of a personality, Kyle and that big just have this incredible chemistry. Look at that. Oh, I miss that, man. I miss it. The big business.
But yeah, so that's essentially the final game that we win in that postseason. And I wanted to kind of show a highlight of LeBron talking about the fans, because like I said, the city was on something. But unfortunately, we weren't able to put that clip in. But Harris, I know you have a live clip of Kyle Lowry hitting that game winner during the season. I think we forgot to show that to the fans. Yeah, that was insane.
Let's preface this.
Let's go Raptors! Let's go Raptors!
My voice is gone at this point. Absolutely, completely.
Probably.
Raptors! Let's go Raptors!
I can only imagine what it was like. Oh.
Yeah, so
to the left.
Because it was almost like you saw it coming, and that's why the video was out for that reason specifically, because you felt it. Everyone felt that electricity where it's like, nah, today it's not going to happen, right? You're not going to let a Cleveland team come in here and essentially walk all over you, because that was all the coverage coming into that, right? Where it's like, oh, the Toronto Raptors are doing it, but are they really for real? Are they, just what they've always been, which is a terror, and then just whimper away? And this was
Barney, baby dinos or baby Raptors and this and that. They choke in the playoffs and this and so. I mean, these games ended up being statement games for every Raptor. I'm sure Kyle and DeMar have stories about how they would be like, all right, tonight we're gonna get like 40 apiece. Let's go, and let's hold these boys down. And so, for me, this is probably one of the best moments of my life. Like this entire run. Like I said, the city was on a wave. Everything about the culture of Toronto literally, I think, solidified and just like blew up in a more worldwide global scale after this series. And so Carabana was huge that year. Drake was at Ryerson, literally the everything, man. I'm telling you. But then, again, we're back to the drawing board. A few pieces that we wanted to add to contribute to maybe getting past LeBron in the offseason, but that's something for another day. This is just like the first half of Kyle's career with Toronto, and we call it Memoirs of the GROAT because, we want to relive these moments with you guys, with Kyle Lowry. And, HK and I, we love to just kind of remember what we were doing in that time, just reliving or just rewatching and just being like, oh my God, I forgot about this. This is crazy. But Kyle Lowry with like almost like an entire portfolio of incredible games throughout the course of his career. And this is just the first half, right? We're going to get into the second half on another date because it is kind of late. But that one is going to be catered towards the final bit of that story where Mr. Kyle Lowry, Mr. Big Booty Assassin, Babyface Assassin, the bulldog of Bay Street. So much in this incredible career from a perspective of just the game, but also from the culture, right? And so we're going to get into that next time. Anything that you wanted to add about this entire era that we've covered so far, that little half, anything else that you remember, any notables?
Yeah, I mean, as far as notables are concerned, it was always going to be Kyle Lowry's transformation to me, not even just the physical side of it, but just mentally how he transformed. Mm-hmm. He went from a guy who was 100% out for himself, out to ensure that he got the respect he deserved. And in many ways, he kind of embodied Toronto as a whole. We're always been a franchise that the fans always complain about how we get disrespected, how we don't get the national coverage, how we don't get, the flowers, as they say. And in many ways, some of it was for good reason. We've had tons and tons of bad years. We've had situations where it's been volatile, where we had people that we've overpaid, blah, blah, blah. But throughout all of that, this guy, this little man from Philadelphia, comes in onto Toronto Raptors, goes through that initial stage of kind of is this the right fit for me? Is this where I want to be? Remember, he almost got traded. We didn't really spend too much time on that side because
we don't want to. We don't care.
I don't like to look back to that. But remember, in that 2013-14 season, we were 100% in this scenario. We're going to blow everything up, right? Kyle's going to be, for his little stop here, we're going to go full-on rebuild, and we're going to try and get Wiggins or whoever it is that we were trying to get ourselves onto a rebuilding stage for. But sometimes things just work out. Sometimes that luck is what you need to be able to get a start of a beautiful friendship. And that's exactly what ended up happening here, right? The New York Knicks decided not to go forward with acquiring Kyle Lowry at that time, not wanting to get fleeced by Masai again or whatever else. Yeah, Dolan at the time. And no one wants to deal with Masai. Let's make that a big thing here because Masai just has a penchant for doing deals that seem good on paper for the other team as well, but really it's like complete and utter fleecing for them as the years go on. So they're weird.
Masai lives in all the GM's heads rent free, ladies and gentlemen. Rent free. A phrase that HK is very, very accustomed to. But you're definitely right, and I think speaking about those times where you might have traded him is kind of like an even bigger reason to appreciate a guy like this, right? For him to not give him a reason, not give them a reason at all. And I think Kyle had mentioned, I was listening to a podcast with CJ McCollum recently. I don't know if you've heard that one yet. I think it's called The Pull-Up. Okay. And he was interviewing Kyle Lowry. And he was talking about how, like, in his days in Memphis and Houston, he genuinely felt like he was a better player than some of the guys he was getting started over. And he said he took it personally, but in a way where he's like, yo, wherever my opportunity comes, I'm going to be ready. So that meant extra practices. Like if that meant after the game, even if he didn't get a single minute that game, to tell the coach to stay after the game, work me out so that, he can keep in shape. So when the game time is ready, or if something happens like an injury, he's ready. And that mentality came into Toronto. Now you say he was selfish. Sure. Because he needed to get himself noticed by a variety of different teams, or even the Raptors, or maybe even himself, to prove to himself. Yeah. But one thing he did say is like the emergence of guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Hurtel, DeLon Wright, even extending to OG Anunoby. He remembers how he made sure that those guys were not treated any differently. The way that he was disrespected in the past didn't mean anything. Usually people would project those same feelings onto the next guy. Like, I made it now. Y'all have to hustle. I don't give a shit about you or anything like that. No, he made it a point to make sure that those guys felt important, and that if they put in the work, first of all, he showed them how to put in the work, but you will be rewarded. And look at their careers. Look at the pay that these guys have now. Kyle Lowry is a mentor to these guys, and he gave them the culture and the confidence to be able to express themselves and be the hoopers that they are. And for that, that's intangible stuff as a player, right? That's bigger than basketball. That's like literally, I think the biggest thing that you can do as a basketball player, apart from like, success, accolades, and this and that, is to give back and to really bring people up. And that's what he did. He brought up a city. And that's not something that's easy.
Yeah. And I think you're speaking to exactly what we're alluding to, that maturity that came with it, right? Remember, Kyle Lowry, by the time that 2015-16 season came, was really just hitting, 29, 30 as far as his age is concerned, right? Getting to what's essentially the prime of your career. And he's now, think about it, he's already a 10-year veteran in the league by the time that 15-16 season comes around, right? This is not, a new guy on the block. This is one who's seen kind of the ups and downs of the league and now really has become comfortable in his own skin to the point where now he can be like, all right, I know who I am. I know my franchise knows who I am. I know the people know what I bring. Now it's up to me to not only bring out the best in myself, but also to bring the best out of everyone around me.
Oh, yeah.
really, to me, that is kind of the journey of Kyle Lowry. We're hitting this 15-16 season and taking a break here. This is, to me, like prime individual Kyle Lowry, not in the sense that he already wasn't making his teammates better. He absolutely was. But this is where it was like, all right, this Kyle Lowry is the kind of guy who can get you a bucket on any given night, right? This is the guy who's going to be putting up 20 points a night, because those are the two seasons, this one and the season after, where he did 21, 22 points a game. And while that was great and it was important and it was absolutely what the Toronto Raptors needed, it also kind of became one of those things where it's like, well, we became Kyle or bust. And then is where that maturity and that growth in Kyle Lowry came through. And as we'll get to speak about next time around, I think we get to see that he truly did reap what he sowed. And that sowed maturity, that leadership, that bulldog mentality, that never say die mentality that Kyle Lowry brought, kind of embodied exactly what the Toronto Raptors became known for throughout this We the North era, and especially in that tail end where we eventually do get to the apex of what any franchise can achieve.
Yep. And that will be a conversation for the next episode of Memoirs of the GROAT, Kyle Lowry. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for joining us. And for those who didn't, y'all definitely missed out on a pretty awesome episode. We're going to put this up on YouTube, Facebook, IPTV, everywhere. Go check it out. Comment what you like. Enjoy with us. And until next time, HK, you want to do the outro?
Absolutely. And as always, this is HK. And despite what it says HK Lowry on here, that's just, he's my boy. HK is here always. That Guy Owais is here with me. And until next time, please keep following us at The Swing Podcast on Instagram, Swing Podcast on Facebook, same name on YouTube as well. All these channels where we try to engage with all of our fans, with all the people that are just as in love with these little stories, with these little points in our life that we probably will never get to see again. Not in the same way that Kyle Lowry has left his mark on the city of Toronto. But until then, we will see you on the next one. Take care and peace.
Lillard, long range three. Defended by Simmons. Is this the trigger? Oh, boom shakalaka! Game! Series!